The religion of Islam is the second largest organized religion in the world, and there are various ways in which people live out this faith. And in this episode of FTD Facts, I'm looking at Sufi Islam. Welcome to another FTD Facts episode, guys. My name is Leroy Kenton, and I have 10 surprising and interesting facts about Sufism, aka Sufi Islam. Now, Sufism is a very fascinating way of life, so stick around until the end of this episode so you don't miss any of these facts. Okay, so let's jump right in, starting at number 10, going all the way down to number 1. Sufism is an Arabic word which is called tasawwuf, and Sufism is defined according to the Arabic as an Islamic mysticism, or the inward dimension of Islam. Now, it consists of a variety of mystical paths that are designed to explore the nature of humanity and of God, and to bring about the presence of divine love and wisdom in the world. Research and history have traced Sufi origins as well as the start of its precepts from Muhammad through his cousin and son-in-law Ali. In the modern era, there has been a relative decline of the Sufi order and criticism of some aspects of Sufism by modernists as well as conservative Muslims who follow the Salafi school of thought. Sufism has continued to play an important role, however, in the Islamic world, and has also influenced various forms of spirituality. Research has shown us that about 5% of the total population of Muslims in the world follow Sufism. According to the World General Consensus Body, we have about 1.8 billion Muslims in the world. Now, therefore, the total estimated population of Sufism is 90 million. The country of Turkey has the highest and growing population of Sufism in the world. Sufism is very popular in most Muslim countries in Africa, such as Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and Senegal. In these countries, Sufism is seen as a mystical expression of Islam. You can see traditional Sufism in the country of Morocco, but it has experienced a growing revival with a renewal under contemporary spiritual teachers. Also, according to history, Sufis have often belonged to different turuq or orders. These orders meet for spiritual sessions in meeting places known as zawiyas. What they do there is to strive for perfection of worship, and that's known as Ishan. Now, Ishan is to worship Allah as if you see Him. They believe that even if you can't see Allah, He definitely can see you. Now, the word Sufism was initially introduced into the European language in the 18th century, and it was viewed mainly as an intellectual doctrine and literary tradition that was inconsistent with what they saw as pure monotheism of Islam. However, in recent times, many scholars have used other definitions of Sufism, such as intensification of the Islamic faith and practice, and some also defined it as a process of realizing ethical and spiritual ideals. Many other people also define Sufism as a spiritual quality instead, in a more practical context. The earliest figures of Sufism are the Prophet Muhammad himself as well as his companions. Now, I touched on this a little bit earlier, but I'm going to get a little bit more into it now. The Sufi orders are based on pledging of the allegiance which was given to Muhammad by his companions. Now, by pledging allegiance to the Prophet Muhammad, it means that the companions have committed themselves to the service of God. So not that Sufis are to worship the Prophet Muhammad, but that Sufis dedicate themselves to a life of service to God like the Prophet Muhammad did. Also, Sufis believe that anyone who pledges allegiance to Muhammad has created a spiritual connection between the individual and the Prophet Muhammad. And the Sufis aim to learn about understanding and connecting with God through Muhammad. Next thing to note is that in order for Sufism to look more organized and acceptable by people, back in the 11th century, Sufism, which had previously been a less codified trend in Islam, it began to be a lot more ordered and crystallized into orders which have continued until this present day. Towards the end of the first millennia, a number of manuals began to be written to summarize the doctrines of Sufism, as well as describing some typical Sufi practices. Two of the most famous ones are now available in English, and those are the Kashf al-Mahjub, and this is of Ali Hujwiri, as well as the Risala al-Kishari. Getting more into these Sufi orders, or brotherhoods as they're sometimes called, are now more organized and directed by a master known as Pir, Sheikh, Ishan, Murshid, or Ustad, and they are referred to as teachers with divine connections to God. They offer physical guidance as well as spiritual help to their followers and are also the source of inspiration for anyone who belongs to the order or brotherhood. Another thing that I found interesting is that most Sufis are wandering travelers who carry a wooden cane and have their hair tinted with henna, and they travel from place to place trying to spread the word of their religion. They are very conservative when they talk about themselves. So like example, if you ask a Sufi where he's going, or if you ask where does he come from, or how do you earn your money, like what do you do for a living, he'll most likely say, only Allah knows. Some Sufis are hermits who live in caves like Buddhist or Hindu holy men. Talk about devotion and dedication. Just imagine, you're just living life and you're like, well, I'm not making any money, but God will provide. Now the last thing I want to share is that instead of picking from the numerous rules and regulations that are in the Quran, Sufism decided to pick from poetry and other mystic teachings. They believe that wherever you turn, there is a face of God. Sufis also believe that the ascension of the Prophet Muhammad into heaven is regarded as a model for the flight of the human soul to God. Also, research has shown that Sufis believe that the human spirit, being a direct emanation from the divine command, is therefore an emanation of God himself and could find its highest aim only in the obliteration of its illusory selfhood and absorption into the eternal reality. They believe that the supreme mystical experience is thus achieved in union with God, even if it's only achieved momentarily. Alright guys, so that was a brief look into the world of Sufism. I want to hear from you guys all about your thoughts about Sufism. And for me, every time I think Sufis, like my mind goes straight to the Jedi from Star Wars who can like move stuff with their mind. Now I know we didn't cover a lot in this episode, so definitely if you want to see a part 2, let me know also down below. Now for all of you who made it to the end, I have another episode for you to check out right here. And don't forget, my social media links are below in the video description section. And if you want to keep up to date with our daily episodes and FTD facts, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so you don't miss any of our episodes. Alright guys, so thank you so much for hanging out with me in this episode. I can't wait to see you next time. See you soon.